Throughout all those years of producing horror movies, there have been countless horror movies released up until today. In today's video, we're going to show you the top 10 horror movies to watch. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you can stay aware of our newest videos. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the video. Number 10 in our list is It Follows. Before I explain the movie, I should make it clear that IT franchise and It Follows franchise are two separate and different franchise and they are not connected to each other. Anyway, It Follows is a 2014 supernatural horror film written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. The film gained significant attention and praise for its unique and unsettling premise, as well as its tense atmosphere and minimalist approach to horror. It stands out as one of the most original horror films of the 2010s. It Follows centers around a deadly curse that is passed from person to person through sexual contact. Once someone is infected with the curse, they are pursued by a mysterious, shape-shifting entity that can take the form of anyone, a stranger, a loved one, or a random person. This entity relentlessly walks toward the cursed individual at a slow pace, and if it catches them, they will be killed. The only way to escape the curse is to pass it on by having sex with someone else, but even then, the curse will revert back to the previous individual if the new person is killed.
Here! Right there! Where is it?
Number 9 in our list is the classic supernatural American movie which is The Ring. The Ring is a 2002 American supernatural horror film directed by Gore Verbinski, which is a remake of the Japanese horror film Ringu, 1998. Both films are based on the novel Ring by Koji Suzuki. It became a cultural phenomenon, especially in the early 2000s, for its chilling story, creepy atmosphere, and one of the most iconic horror characters in modern cinema, Samara, the ghostly girl who kills her victims through a cursed videotape. The story of The Ring centers on a cursed videotape that causes the death of anyone who watches it within 7 days. The tape contains strange, disturbing imagery, and at the end of it, viewers receive a phone call warning them that they have only 7 days left to live. The protagonist, Rachel Keller, played by Naomi Watts, is a journalist who starts investigating the mysterious deaths surrounding the videotape, particularly after her niece dies under mysterious circumstances. I highly recommend it, go watch it. Number 8 in our list is Saw. Please be careful with that one because it's a really intense movie. Saw is a highly influential horror franchise known for its complex and gruesome traps, intense psychological elements, and its iconic antagonist, John Kramer, aka Jigsaw. The first film, released in 2004, was directed by James Wan and written by Lee Hwanel, who also starred in the movie. What started as a low-budget, independent film grew into one of the most successful horror franchises. The Saw series revolves around John Kramer, also known as Jigsaw, a terminally ill man who tests his victims' will to live by placing them in elaborate death traps. Unlike traditional slasher villains, Jigsaw doesn't directly kill his victims. Instead, he places them in scenarios where they must make difficult, often gruesome, choices to survive. His twisted philosophy is rooted in his belief that people who take their lives for granted must be forced into situations that make them appreciate life. As someone who have watched the movie, I would recommend to not watch this movie alone.
Get me out of here! Help us! Get me out of here! Break it!
Hello, Brad. woman has played each of you for a fool, manipulating your love for her and causing nothing but pain. Her fun and games pushed you both to break the law to fulfill her material needs.
Number 7 in our list is none other than the famous horror movie of Sinister. Sinister is a 2012 supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson. The movie stands out for its eerie atmosphere, disturbing imagery, and its slow-burn approach to horror. It became a cult hit and is often praised for its unique blend of crime investigation and supernatural horror. The story follows Ellison Oswalt, played by Ethan Hawke, a true crime writer who moves into a new house with his wife and 2 children. Unbeknownst to his family, Ellison has chosen the house because it was the site of a brutal family murder, which he hopes to use as the basis for his next book. Shortly after moving in, Ellison discovers a box of old home movies in the attic, each depicting the murder of different families. As he watches the films, he realizes that the murders spanned several decades, and all of the families had children who mysteriously disappeared. He soon learns that these killings are connected to a malevolent, ancient pagan deity named Burgle, who manipulates children into murdering their own families and records the acts on film. The film explores the theme of obsession, particularly how Ellison's desire for fame and success blinds him to the dangers he's exposing his family to. His relentless pursuit of a true crime story ends up putting his own family at risk. Sinister is one of the most iconic crime and horror movie. I highly recommend watching it, you won't regret it. Number 6 in our list is It. I think majority of you already have seen it. It is a horror franchise based on Stephen King's 1986 novel of the same name. The story centers around a shape-shifting entity that often appears in the form of Pennywise the dancing clown to prey on the fears of children. The franchise spans multiple adaptations, most notably the 1990 miniseries and the 2-part film adaptation released in 2017 and 2019. The story of It revolves around the town of Derry, Maine, where a group of children, known as the Losers Club, must confront a monstrous entity that terrorizes the town every 27 years. This entity, referred to as It, often manifests as Pennywise, but can also take on the form of whatever its victims fear the most. The narrative is split into 2 timelines, one following the children in the 1950s, or 1980s, depending on the adaptation, and another following them as adults when they return to Derry to face it again. Pennywise or It, played by Tim Curry in the 1990 miniseries and Bill Skarsgård in the 2017 and 2019 films, Pennywise is the most iconic form of the entity known as It. Pennywise uses its ability to shape-shift and feed off fear to lure children to their doom. The Losers Club is a group of 7 kids who band together to fight it. In my opinion, don't miss this. Go ahead and watch it. If you have enjoyed the movie so far, don't forget to like and subscribe. That is how you can show us support for what we are doing. So now let's get back to the video. Number 5 in our list is a movie which I believe most of us have seen it, which is The Conjuring. The Conjuring franchise is a supernatural horror film series based on the real-life cases of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were well-known paranormal investigators. The franchise, directed primarily by James Wan, has become one of the most successful horror franchises of all time, spawning multiple sequels, spin-offs, and establishing a shared cinematic universe, often referred to as the Conjuring universe. The films are renowned for their tension-building atmosphere, supernatural scares, and the portrayal of the Warrens. The Conjuring series draws inspiration from the real-life investigations of Ed and Lorraine Warren, lending an air of authenticity to the films. Although dramatized for cinematic purposes, the connection to actual events enhances the horror for audiences. A major theme in the franchise is demonic possession and the idea that objects, like the Annabelle doll, can serve as vessels for evil entities. The films explore how spirits and demons attach themselves to individuals and families, leading to terrifying consequences. If you watched this franchise already, you should watch it again. Otherwise, if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and watch it. Don't miss that big movie. Number 4 at our list as one of the scariest movies of all time is Hereditary. Hereditary, 2018, is a psychological horror film directed by Ari Aster in his feature film debut. It quickly gained a reputation as one of the most disturbing and emotionally intense horror movies of the modern era. The film focuses on themes of family trauma, grief, and the inheritance of dark, supernatural forces. The story follows the Graham family as they begin to unravel horrifying secrets following the death of their secretive grandmother, Ellen Lee, who had deep connections to a mysterious occult group. As the family deals with their grief, a series of increasingly disturbing events begins to unfold, revealing that something far darker may be lurking beneath the surface of their familial history. The film opens with the funeral of Ellen Lee, the estranged grandmother of the family. Her death brings a sense of dread and unease to the family, especially Annie, who had a complicated relationship with her mother. The film's title refers to the idea that the Graham family is doomed to inherit not only psychological trauma but also a supernatural curse. The idea that evil can be passed down like a family heirloom is a central horror element. If you would ask me what horror movie you should watch alone, I would say this is one of the best movies to watch it alone at midnight. Number 3 of our list as the most horror movies is Halloween. Halloween is one of the most enduring and iconic horror franchises in film history. It began in 1978 with John Carpenter's Halloween, which introduced the world to the terrifying figure of Michael Myers. The franchise spans over 4 decades, with numerous sequels, remakes, and reboots, making it one of the most influential slasher series ever. At its core, the Halloween series focuses on the masked killer Michael Myers, who, as a child, murdered his sister on Halloween night. Years later, he escapes from a mental institution and returns to his hometown of Haddonfield to continue his killing spree, mainly targeting Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who becomes his primary adversary in the original film and subsequent entries. Michael Myers is often referred to as the Shape. He represents pure evil, a relentless, silent, and emotionless killer driven by an unknown force. His lack of motive or humanity makes him a terrifying killer. Laurie Strode is the quintessential final girl, a common trope in horror films where the last woman standing confronts the killer. Laurie's resourcefulness, determination, and survival instincts make her a central figure in the franchise. I am sure if you like crime and horror movies, this franchise is gonna be your favorite. Go give it a try. The second and most well-known scary movie is The Shining 1980. The Shining, 1980, is a psychological horror film directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on Stephen King's 1977 novel of the same name. The film has become one of the most iconic and influential horror movies, praised for its unsettling atmosphere, cinematography, and complex themes of isolation and madness. The film follows Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, a writer and recovering alcoholic, who takes a job as the winter caretaker of the isolated Overlook Hotel in the mountains of Colorado. Jack moves into the hotel with his wife, Wendy, Shelley Duvall, and their young son, Danny Lloyd, who has psychic abilities referred to as the Shining. As winter progresses, Jack descends into madness, driven by supernatural forces within the hotel. Danny has the ability to see disturbing visions of the past and future, which he refers to as the Shining. He communicates telepathically with the hotel's chef, Dick Halloran, Scatman Crothers, who also has the Shining ability. The Shining is a masterclass in building psychological horror, using slow-burn tension, unsettling visuals, and themes of isolation and madness to craft a deeply disturbing experience. I definitely recommend this movie who like psychological horror film. The most horror and scariest movie is The Exorcist. Even though till now movie companies make movies about The Exorcist, like the most recent movie is The Pope's Exorcist, which is starring Russell Crowe. Overall we can say Exorcist 1973 is the scariest movie since the movie has been released. The Exorcist 1973 is a chilling story of demonic possession, and all the other Exorcist movie is also about demonic possession. This often considered one of the scariest movies of all time. The Exorcist 1973 is one of the most iconic horror films in history, which is based on the novel by William Peter Blatty. The plot centers around a 12-year-old girl named Regan McNeil, who becomes possessed by a malevolent demon. Her mother, Chris McNeil, a famous actress, seeks medical help but finds no explanation for her daughter's bizarre and violent behavior. Desperate, she turns to the church, leading to an exorcism performed by two priests, Father Marin and Father Karras. Also according to the movie, the entity is Pazuzu, a demon king from Assyrian and Babylonian lord. If you are looking to a real scary movie that terrifies you, then watch it and tell us how was the movie in the comment. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe and tell us what do you think about our list. Also, if you are a big fan of horror movies and want to watch new horror movies which released in 2024. Go watch that video. We are explaining top 10 best horror movies of 2024.